January. It's November 28th right now. This is a November 27th, 1835 story. So, less than 200 years ago, the city of London, the government officials of the city of London went ahead and killed James Pratt and John Smith because they had homosexual sex with each other. And the landlord of the building that it happened in the room that it was happening in, the landlord is George John Berkshire. So, George John Berkshire, he goes up in a loft, the neighbor's loft, or he's climbing up the neighbor's tree or some shit, looking into the window, seeing what he could see, and he saw that the two men were sitting on an older man's lap. So it's all in William Bonnell's room. He's 68 years of age. He was the villain. George John Berkshire and Jane Berkshire absolutely hated William Bonnell. So William Bonnell, 68 years of age, he had been there for 13 months. He'd been renting this room, which apparently has no fucking privacy, and a bunch of weird perverts. The weird fucking people of this story are George John Berkshire and Jane Berkshire. So George John Berkshire is over in the loft, the neighbor's loft. He's looking in the window, and he's seeing all this lap sitting. What were they doing sitting on each other's laps? So James Pratt is 30 years old. John Smith is a 40-year-old preying on the, the robbing the cradle, so to speak, of the 30-year-old. So John Smith is 40 years old, and James Pratt is 30 years old. These are going to be the last homosexual, they're not a couple. They actually just met that night. So it could have developed into something. It was a great start, right? If there's sex in the very beginning, that's a possibility of love setting in. There's a clear, sexual attraction there. And so, in a way, this is a kind of a love story that's, I don't know of any love story that rivals Romeo and Juliet and, Bonnie and Clyde and some of these sort of very tragic love stories. But this is one of them. This is up there with one of the best love stories. Titanic, right? Why did he have to die? There's plenty of room. So, and that's fiction, right? Romeo and Juliet's fiction. Only Bonnie and Clyde's a true love story, right? And they're fucking criminals. They're gangsters. And they're fucking hurting people. So, this is James Pratt, John Smith are the last homosexual couple or the last people to be murdered for homosexual acts. They're going to get arrested for buggery, which is what the English people used to call anal sex. Hey, you up to that buggery? You doing that buggery? What kind of buggery are you up to? Oh, just anal sex. Okay, that's exactly buggery. Get in the paddy wagon. And then they're going to have a trial, and they're going to convict these two sons of bitches. The William Bonnell is going to get spared. The 68-year-old man who owned the room, he is going to only be banished to Australia for 15 years. He leaves England November 5th, 1835, which means he left before they were executed. And then he lands there February 21st, 1836. So it takes them 4 fucking months on the goddamn sea. And then he's going to die in Tasmania, Australia, 1841, 5 years later. So they did not take care of their prisoner in Australia very well. He just died. But I guess that's, for the bottom line, you don't have to take care of him anymore. You don't have to pay, right? He's just a liability. So November 27th, 1835 is when James Pratt and John Smith is going to be murdered. They're going to get killed. They're going to get hung. They're going to get hung in front of a bunch of people in front of this prison. So that's, that's essentially the whole story there. So more of the details. Judge Baron Gurney is the guy who sentenced them to death, Judge Baron Gurney. So he's a piece of shit, right? So fuck Baron Gurney. He convicted them on Section 15 of the Offenses Against the Person Act of 1828, which had replaced the 1533 Buggery Act. So there was a 1533 No Anal Sex Act in London, but they updated it and just put it in Section 15 of the Offenses Against the Person Act of 1828. So a very minuscule, minor, tiny fucking law. There was some other judge that had said this is one of those crimes that has no victims. So he was trying to commute their death sentence. They have no victims. You're putting these people to death. There were 17 people that were supposed to be put to death that September and November, and every one of them got a pardon. They were robbers, they were thieves, they were people that tried to murder other people, tried to murder them, tried to take their fucking lives, the worst crime out here. You know, and then the stealing, that's pretty bad too. But this crime, which has no victims whatsoever, buggery, anal sex, which they were accused of, and there's a little bit of evidence of it, but they weren't allowed to testify. They couldn't provide any evidence. They had to sit in the court and let the jury judge them in silence. They couldn't say a fucking word. And then they were, you know, all depressed and dejected the day that they were going to get killed. Charles Dickens is going to go see them right before they get killed. He writes about them, their appearance, and how they were just dejected. So, yeah, the landlord is a piece of shit, right? Fuck George John Berkshire and Jane Berkshire. These landlords were being the weird fucking creepy people, so I didn't finish what happens, right? Okay, so this happens, okay, they come together August 29th, 1835. John and James, I don't know if they've been seeing each other or not, but James Pratt was a married man with 2 daughters. James Pratt is a married man with 2 daughters, and he had told the wife that he was going to look for another job. He visited his aunt, and then he goes on, and then he goes to a bar. He was drunk when he visited his aunt, however, so maybe he was just, you know, dipping out, not looking for a job, but to, you know, get some gay sex from John Smith. But the story is they meet in a bar. So this is according to, you know, the testimonies of these people. They only met that day. They met the day of, you know, that they get arrested. So they meet at the bar. They're liking each other, and then William Bonhill brings the 2, James Pratt and John Smith, to his house. Now George John Berkshire and Jane Berkshire, they had went ahead and pinpointed William Bonhill as the villain. So they wanted to take the villain. They're eyeballing the villain. They're peeping the villain, right? They're peeping in the stable, the stable or the barn, the loft. They said there was a loft. So they go to the neighbor's loft, and then it's him, George John Berkshire, and he sees that they're sitting on each other's lap. William Bonhill is a part of this. So William Bonhill is going to eventually get out, but when George John Berkshire was peeping Tom from the neighbor's loft into the housing, right, of Bonhill, Pratt, and Smith, he saw them sitting on each other's laps. Now he goes back and he's sitting there talking to his wife, and he's like appalled. He's like, "Oh my gosh, the villain!" They suspected William Bonhill doing some gay shit because he'd always been doing gay stuff. He'd been bringing, you know, couples, mostly male couples, sometimes 2 times a day into his room. So that was his thing, right? He, I guess, provided a space for them, but clearly the landlord was suspicious. William Bonhill was the villain, but clearly it's the fucking landlord. How oppressive. How oppressive and how fucking sick and creepy and perverted is George John Berkshire and Jane Berkshire. George and Jane Berkshire are very perverted fucking people. So after George tells Jane that he'd been peeping at them and he saw that they're sitting on each other's laps, well, she gets in on the action and she goes to the 2nd floor and she's looking through the keyhole. She's looking through the keyhole and she sees it all. She sees that they're laying on each other, taking off each other's clothes, penetrating each other, giving each other anal sex. When she was asked the question whether or not they had erections, she couldn't answer that question, so I don't know how they're having anal sex without erections. She also, you know, why wouldn't you answer that question? Why wouldn't she have known that? And she only looked through the keyhole for a minute. You could see probably all that in a minute, but looking through the keyhole, right, are you sure it was that person? Are you sure it was their faces? Are you sure it was, you know, that penis and that butthole? Are you sure that's the exact? I want to know precisely what the fuck you're saying that these guys are going to be murdered for. So Jane Berkshire is the one that actually testifies against him, and it's her testimony that gets him killed. She's the one that saw the sex acts. She saw the anal sex. And so, okay, so they call the police. The police come there. The police didn't see nothing, but based on that testimony, they arrest the 2. And then basically the jailers and the judges are laughing at these 2 people because they're going to kill them. They're going to kill them. They think that it's so fucking disgusting. Mercy cannot be expected of men like them, right? These are homophobic pieces of shit. Love is fluid, so there's a little bit of, you know, these motherfuckers are just afraid of their feelings. And they think that by hating gay men, having gay sex, that somehow tells the world that Baron Gurney is not, you know, a gay man. But he is, according to the way I understand it, he's the one. Why does he need a faggot? Why does he need to pick on, you know, the gay man? Why can't the gay man do his gay stuff without Baron Gurney giving a shit? Why couldn't George John Berkshire and Jane Berkshire leave the men, let the men have sex? Let the men be gay. What's it to you? Why do you give a shit? But you are so insecure, you have to hate any and every. Mercy cannot be expected of men like them. They're so fucking wretched. They're so disgusting. How dare anybody ever, have sex with themselves? So Baron Gurney didn't love himself, right? He's a man. If you love yourself, that's homosexual-ish. I mean, like, you are the same sex as yourself. But, yeah, so, Baron Gurney, I think, is the faggot, and he's the piece of shit, and John Berkshire is the faggot, so is Jane Berkshire, these creepy-ass people. I am more sickened by their fucking behavior, and if anybody should be put to death, it's these pieces of shit that would allow this shit to happen and then to execute them. Baron Gurney was like, yep, they need to die. Yep, those men had sex. Well, oh my gosh. The Catholic Church says that it's wrong, and it's in the Bible, and how dare you. This is 1835. This is less than 200 years ago. So we just got here yesterday on the historical record in terms of, modernity. And the Internet, I think, puts us in the postmodern generation. So we need to fucking catch up, have our second Renaissance, have our second Enlightenment. So, yeah, everybody gets fucked over. John Berkshire and Jane Berkshire actually tries to redeem themselves by actually testifying that James Pratt is a good man. There was neighbors. There was a prosecutor, former employers. A lot of people came out for James Pratt and said that he was a good man and said that character witnesses, right? He had a good character. There was no evidence that was, nobody had actually testified on behalf of John Smith. The only evidence was the landlord and the wife's testimony, and it was only the wife that had saw the actual, buggery, the anal sex. He just saw the sitting on laps, which actually could be quite innocent, to be honest with you. Outside the Newgate prison is where he's going to get killed. The city of London, both James Pratt and John Smith, for sodomy. The pub was called the Black Friars. So they were at the Black Friars Club is where these two lovebirds, possible lovebirds, met. Bond Hill, when the cop comes in, Bond Hill was not there. So Bond Hill actually gets spared of his life, but he still gets sent to Australia. That's the 68-year-old man. William Bond Hill went out to get some ale, comes back with a jug of ale. So he wasn't there when the buggery was taking place. So, 3 months later, both of them were dead. So, August 29th happened, I guess less than 3 months. It says John and James came August 29th. So, I'm not for sure. It says 3 months later, there were 2 dead, 1 exiled. So, just within a month or 2 or 3 after they had been charged with the crime, they're going to get fucking killed. So, this is a hoopla, but it'd be a media circus. Probably a lot of people saying, what the fuck is going on? There is hissing. When they brought the 2 men out, they were being hissed at because fuck these fags, right? These damn. And then Alan Turing, recently, this is 1835, all this shit happened. Alan Turing, there was a precedent for law because they pardoned Alan Turing for sodomy or what the fuck ever. They give him chemical castration. He invented the fucking computer or what the fuck ever. But because they pardoned Turing, Alan Turing, they use that as precedent to say that they could pardon James Pratt and John Smith for shit that shouldn't even have been illegal in the fucking first place. So the James Pratt and John Smith will get pardoned. John Smith was scared in one of his letters. He's writing somebody letters, and actually there was a report that he had a wife too. So John Smith wrote that the grave will soon close over me and my name will be entirely forgotten. So James Pratt and John Smith, James was also called John, George Berkshire was also called John, everybody's fucking John. But James Pratt and John Smith, I think that's okay with me. James Pratt and John Smith should be known. We should speak of their name. It is a bit of a love story. It's a love story that never came to fruition. It's a love story that what the fuck would have happened if we would have allowed these 2 men to love each other. They would have had comfort and support from, a man who's going to, protect you and get a job and share money with you and take care of you. So these 2 guys, right, they were meeting at a bar, and I don't know if it was the first time. It sounds like it's their first time, so it sounds like it could have been the start of something beautiful. They were having sex, right, so that's a good beginning, that's a good start. If you're having good sex, that's a very good indication of a good relationship. So, but sometimes it's after the first initial attraction. You might be attracted at first, but then after, the kiss or sex or, some sort of lustful, satisfaction, you take a step back and you're kind of like, nah, I don't like that. I am not into that. Why did I do that? So the landlord, right, they opened the door to confront them, right? How fucking rude. They're sitting there having sex and apparently are just lying down or just laughing on one another. She looked through the keyhole, saw sex, and tells the man, and then they break the door down. They opened the door, broke it, and then they call the fucking police. So they're still fucking hopping mad about it. They could have just let it go, kicked him out, done something like that, but instead, no, they called the police. They had to call the authorities on this one. What? That man was touching that man's penis, and then that man, he was smiling, and he said, yum. I like that. Oh, man, there's a fucking crime, huh? That kind of buggery. When they were convicting Baron Gurney, that fucking faggot, low-life piece of shit, he's probably gay as fuck, right? If you're going to kill a person for two other men having sex, that is some deep insecurity by Baron Gurney. He had said that there was no hope of appeal. No hope of appeal whatsoever. Yeah, you're definitely going to die. Yep, you're going to die. So he's like rubbing it in their face. Wife and 2 daughters, right? I already said that. James Pratt had a wife and 2 daughters. Jane Berkshire, Jane had only watched less than a minute, saw anal penetration. She said that there was private parts, but she didn't know about the erection. I mean, if there's no erection, there's no sex, and how do you not know about the erection? I want to know every gritty fucking detail. You're going to put these men to death? You tell me exactly for minute, second by second, what the fuck happened in that minute that you were peeping at people in the privacy of their own fucking room. The jailer that was escorting Charles Dickens confidently said that the James Pratt and John Smith would be executed. 17 were sentenced to death. 15 of them got pardoned, but not James Pratt and John Smith. They're hung in front of a Newgate prison. Neither Smith nor Pratt could give testimony or provide evidence in their case. Mercy cannot be expected of them. They looked weak and dejected. They were haggard and ghostly or ghastly. They were just basically, they give up on life. They had to hold James Pratt up while they hung him, while they pushed the bolt or pushed the button or what the fuck ever the hangman did. And then they fucking killed him. The crime has no injury to anybody. Another judge or magistrate, he also mentioned how the rich people get away with it. And this is actually a profound fucking thing because when you're rich, you got a mansion, right? You can do all the gay sex that you want in, you know, go down in a bunker. You could have like a secret room underneath your basement, right? You got a mansion. You got a million fucking houses. And if you own the damn thing and nobody else is there, nobody knows what's going to happen. So the rich actually have all the time in the world, all the privacy, all the space in the world to do all the homosexual sex that they want to do. But meanwhile, the poor people, because they have to live in shacks and they have to live in other people's housing and they got to rent, they don't own any fucking thing. They don't have any means of production, or they don't own anything, no land, no houses, no nothing, then they're more vulnerable. They're out there, out and about in front of others. So it's a crime that only hits the poor people. The rich people get away with it, and also they mention that there's no fucking injury. And that's my definition of crime. If nobody is injured, it's not a fucking crime. The point of the law is to protect one person from injuring another person, to protect life, liberty, and limb. So if there's no victim, well, there's no fucking crime. How are you going to tell me that somebody needs to get in trouble for some shit when, you know, nobody's hurt, nobody got injured? Get the fuck out of my face. That would actually be the one rule that I tell my kid. Do whatever you want, my child, my son, my daughter. Do whatever you want. But just listen to this one rule. Don't hurt anybody. Don't harm anyone. Don't hurt or harm anybody. If they just do that one fucking, you know, they just do that one rule, I'm happy. What, you played in a field and played with dirt all day? Okay, congratulations. I hope you had fun. But did you hurt nobody? Okay, then good. I'm proud of you. You didn't hurt anybody. So that's the one rule. That would be the only law. And so the fact that we've gotten past law to where it's what we're doing pre-crime, we're doing shit like, you know, the DUIs, the speeding, a lot of this stuff is like, well, you might have hurt somebody. If you're driving crazy or erratic, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. So Judge Baron Gurney is a piece of shit. So's George John Berkshire and Jane Berkshire. There was a jury, right? The magistrate who arrested them is the one that said mercy cannot be expected of men like them. So it's like, ooh, gross. How dare you do that? Between 1810 and 1835, 46 people in London or England were hung for sodomy. 32 were pardoned during that period, but 46 of them were killed. So 46, it wasn't just James Pratt and John Smith. They're the last gay men or men who engaged in sexual acts. We don't even know if they're gay men. They, you know, apparently James Pratt had a wife. John Smith, you know, might have had a wife too, and maybe they were just bi-curious. Maybe it was just a fluke, right? They're looking for jobs. They're destitute. They can't find the work. You know, they just start to eyeball each other. There was, you know, a song in the background. They had lights in their eyes. There was a twinkle in each other's eyes, and there was a chemistry there that could not be denied. And something had to happen that night. So, not the least of the shadow of the doubt. So, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, but not the least of a shadow of a doubt. So, it's actually, you know, pretty much without a reasonable doubt whatsoever. Yeah, they did it. We're going to fucking kill them eventually. 1967 Sexual Offenses Act, and then the 2003 Sexual Offenses Act changes it. So, I think homosexuality is legal in Britain, in London, but I don't know. It was illegal in this country up until, what, 1 or 2 fucking years ago, before the Supreme Court said that, you know, other laws, other states have to respect other states, so the laws of the other states. So both men were crying, right? James Pratt was a horse groomer, so, you know, what the fuck, that's his life, just going around, just, you know, brushing the hair of horses for what, rich fucking people racing the horses? I mean, what are horses, I guess, in 1835 for military and shit? So he's going around brushing the hair of horses. He's 30 years old. He's got a wife and 2 daughters. He's looking for better work. He goes to a bar. He goes to Blackfriars, meets a man, goes to this hotel with another man with William Bonnell, which says, you know what, I'm a gay man too, come into my room and we can go ahead and, you know, have ourselves a little good time, have ourselves some fun. And then, you know, they only got into it just a little bit before the door was broken down. Cops are there. They get escorted. Then they're put on trial. Everybody's hating them and hissing at them, and then they're convicted by Judge Baron Gurney, George John Berkshire, these creepy fucking fags, they're, you know, I don't know if they're gay or not, it's up to your disposition, right? But these clearly bisexual men who are hiding the fluidity of love, the little bit of homosexuality, or all the sexuality of themselves, they're burying it deep in, you know, deep down inside themselves. So these pieces of shit are gay themselves, and they're hurting other gay fucking men just to prove to the world that they're not gay. So they're just being, you know, fucking hypocritical pieces of shit, and they're going above and beyond. You got to murder gay men? I mean, what about gay women? Do you got to murder gay women just to prove that you're not a lesbian? Oh, I'm not a lesbian. Hey, I'm not a lesbian. Oh, I hate the lesbians. I hate the gays. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. Quit thinking about them. Jesus Christ, why the fuck do you think about them so goddamn much? So, yeah, I guess that's it. He's a horse groomer. I mean, he didn't really have much of a life to begin with. And so, he wanted to get a little dick. Ladies, can you relate? You know, this man wanted to get a little dick. He wanted to get a little, you know, some male love. He wants some man loving, you know. And what the fuck is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. The oldest society, all these people, all these fucking laws, fuck everybody. 1835. So basically, England were being ran by a bunch of pieces of shit up until 1835. So fuck all of England, fuck all of Britain, all of UK, fuck the entire empire. Fuck everything that England was doing. Fuck all the English-speaking people, everybody that was speaking their goddamn language up until 1835. Yeah, no, I was speaking German. I was speaking Plattdeutsch, motherfuckers. I wasn't speaking none of this fucking English barbarian motherfuckers going around, you know, the lower Germans. That's the, you know, those are the people that are civilized, not these Anglo-Saxon English motherfuckers. These goddamn right-wing, Caucasian, right, Republican, not Republican, monarchist, fucking monarchists, obedient fucking authoritarians, love any goddamn fascist, right? What am I saying? I think I'm just trying to end this up. How do I end this? I don't know. But I guess R.I.P. James Pratt and John Smith. R.I.P. William Bonnell. R.I.P. James Pratt, John Smith, William Bonnell. R.I.P. the 46 men or women who were killed in London or England between 1810 and 1835. And fuck George Berkshire. Fuck Jane Berkshire. Fuck Baron Gurney. Fuck the cop that arrested him. Fuck the people that made the laws. Fuck everybody that was a part of this situation that eventually gets James Pratt. Fuck the jury. Yeah, fuck the jury. Yeah, so, James Pratt and John Smith. R.I.P. John Smith. You're not forgotten, John Smith, John Smith, John Smith, and James Pratt.